This is Main Street with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
And good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on when you're viewing this particular program. Thank you all very much for tuning into Main Street with me, your humble host, Gary Allen. It's been an interesting time since the last time we spoke, but we've got a lot to talk about today. So we're going to talk about the NBA Finals, the NHL Finals, the Belmont coming up, talking about the NIL. Apparently, there's a few small developments in that area, Major League Baseball, you name it. We're going to cover it with two of my favorite people, my brother from another mother, Mr. Dave Lamont, and Mr. Jeff DeForest.
Good to be with you, Gary, and for the life of me, I know Dave to be of somewhat impeccable musical taste, having seen him at a lot of shows that other people might find to be obscure, but he was immersed in Thackeray and some other guys I saw at the Funky Biscuit, but he does not agree I'm waiting for George Benson to pop on and be hosting his show. That music, that intro music is sensational on Main Street.
Oh, it's very good.
You're telling me, I thought you didn't like it, Dave Lamont.
No, not at all. I think it's very good. Probably the best part of the show, frankly.
Yeah.
I think we drag it right down.
Anchors, man, human anchors like Cinto Vasquez, unbelievable.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for the compliments. All I do is go on YouTube and I just searched for it. I spent 4 or 5 days listening to this, listening to that, put 3 or 4 of them aside, 5 aside, and I just start picking them off as to what I want to do. It's the same thing as I'm having a group of tour people from Chicago on, the Untouchable Tours, which if you ever get to Chicago, please go book a tour with these folks. I was a tour guide with them when I lived in Chicago. The most fun I ever had in Chicago, other than going in and outside of the bars when I used to drink a little bit back in the day to stay warm. How you guys been since I saw you last, Mr. Lamont? I see you on the PBA bowling tour all the time. And Mr. DeForest, I see your programming every morning. You give it to me on my email or my Facebook. What's up with you guys? What's new?
Dave, what's happening, man?
Not a lot. I'm just about ready to go back on the road with the PBA 50 crowd on Bowl TV, working for the U.S. Bowling Congress. There's actually a big tournament that starts tomorrow in Vegas, which I will not be at, but I will be there the rest of the event. So I'll have a pretty busy summer through the beginning of August anyway. So that's kind of what I've been up to, getting back from vacation. And just
where do they put you up? Where do they put you up when they have you out in Vegas?
Well, it depends a lot of where it is. I think the event is once again at Samstown, which is out in the burbs a little bit. So that's probably where I would have stayed had I gone. I was there last year for that event. That's where I stayed. Hopefully that one elevator has finally been fixed. I understand it's been broken for several years. But it just depends, honestly. Most of the time we pick them ourselves, but it just depends on who's running the event.
I forget the name of the hotel in Las Vegas, but the main feature there was that they had a rather large bowling alley, like 60 to 100 lanes or something.
That's probably South Point.
Yeah.
It wasn't South Point. This was back in the day. So
Showboat?
I'm going to call a boxing match there. And
the Rio? No.
It was in a terrible area of Las Vegas. It was like the kind of area where,
the northern, downtown Las Vegas?
Yeah. No, not downtown.
It wasn't downtown.
Okay.
It was another area.
It might be Samstown, Jeff. That's not my favorite part of Vegas. The hotel is fine and the casino is fine, but that location is not the very best. But you go where you're demanded. I mean, the Orleans has had events. I called an event at the Orleans once. Yeah. South Point is the prominent one. The other one that's really great, but
South Point's relatively new by comparison,
is Red Rocks.
Yeah.
Red Rocks is burbs. That's nice. That's
really a beautiful hotel.
Had a nice facility, and I get in a cab. I'm going to call a fight there, and I mentioned the name of the hotel, which is escaping me, unfortunately. And the cabbie says, "Okay," and then he takes me, and we're like at least a few blocks away from the hotel. And he says, "I don't go any further than this."
I don't think that's got to be a long time ago. That's not that bad. I mean,
I lived in Las Vegas for almost 10 years, and there are places I wouldn't go either, but downtown is pretty lame.
Downtown has changed completely. It's actually been upgraded significantly, I think.
Oh yeah,
now it's a destination, whereas before it was just a place to get cheap food.
And by the way, if you ever go to the pawnbroker, the Pawn Stars, the guys are never there. They're never there. They're only there for the shooting a couple of days out of the month, and that's it. They're never there. It's the employees that are there.
Kind of concerned that you're thinking about pawn shops here, dude. What's going on?
Yep. Pawn stars, pawn suits. They're never there, those guys. I mean, and the old man's dead anyway, so what the heck. All right, let's get to it. We've got OKC against Indiana. Who's favored here, Jeff, by Vegas?
Overwhelming favoritism for Oklahoma City. I believe you have to lay, I think it was started out at 800 to win 100. Now you have to lay 700 to win 100. Very prohibitive odds. You would have to think you take a pass on that if you were going to bet the series. You're getting plus 550 on Indiana.
Ooh.
This is not the biggest differential. You've had series before where you might have had to bet $2,000 two times to win 100. I think the Lakers against the 76ers many years ago qualified in that category. And there have been a couple of others. The Spurs were overwhelming favorites in one of their series against one of the opponents when they won one of their championships back in the days of Tony Parker and company. But overwhelming favoritism for Oklahoma City, and probably you would have to say rightfully so. I don't know how much courage, Dave Lamont, would it take for you to go ahead and ante up 100 to try and take down 550 on Indiana to win the series.
That's
sort of a tough fish to formulate.
To win a couple of games, I can understand that, but you don't get to do that. So, no, Oklahoma City has probably been the best team in the league since almost the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
It took everybody a little while to get used to that, since it wasn't going to be, since Boston was not the best team all year. And, you look around and I don't know who else was running. Cleveland was great for a while and just had some bad breaks near the end with injuries. That didn't help. But all through it all has been Oklahoma City has been the best in the West without doubt. And now with all these others falling by the wayside, although Indiana is a great story, because both these teams also have that rare combination of not just you have the guy who can win the game for you at the end, but also the fact they play well together. So that's a big key for me, guys, is it's nice to play well as a team to share the ball. But at this level, you've got to have the guy who can bail you out or kill, make the kill shot at the end, and both these teams have that.
The Knicks beat the Celtics, okay, and I want to hit on that just for a couple of minutes if we could, Dave. But are the Knicks – I mean, the Celtics did not play a good series against the Knicks. There was no doubt about it. When Tatum got hurt, that really ended all of that. But are the Knicks really going into next season, depending upon what they do or may not do in free agency, are they just a player or two away, or it just happened to luck out for them that Boston wasn't at full strength and they weren't playing well?
Can I say both?
Yeah.
The Celtics, I always thought are a risky. We've talked about this. It's a risky act. If you're not making those 153s you're shooting, you're in for a bad time. And yes, losing a player of that caliber is devastating. And hopefully, that's a major injury, and hopefully he'll be able to come back by the start of next season. Actually, probably won't be.
No, I think he's going to be out all of next year.
Yeah. So it was just, as soon as I said that, I went, no, wait a minute, that was major surgery. So that's I think a bigger story than what the Knicks might be or may not be missing. Obviously, in Jalen Brunson, you have somebody who's established himself as the leader of that team.
Mm-hmm.
KAT obviously is another one who's a great one. But yeah, you can always. It's going to be interesting to see what they can do with their money. That's the number one thing in the NBA. As you guys know, you don't trade players; you're trading paper. And so I don't know their cap situation. I quickly admit I have not studied Nick cap situation.
It's not very good. I saw Monica McNutt this morning on ESPN, and she said it's not really very good. But here's another question too. And Jeff, is Cleveland still going to be favored next year, in spite of the fact that Indiana won the East? I mean, they had their injuries in the playoffs. Like Boston had their injuries, but Boston's got also salary cap issues with the new management and everything. Is Cleveland still going to be the team to beat in everybody's mind, or is it going to be Indiana?
I think Indiana gained a notch of respect here. They've been underdogs the last two series. They won them both. The shocker, I think, of the playoffs so far was Cleveland's just being annihilated.
Yeah.
I understand. I mean, you had Mobley was injured, Garland was injured, and Donovan Mitchell was also impaired during that series, even though he played through it. So yeah, they were compromised. But after they hammered the Miami Heat 2 games in a row by a combined 80 points. No matter what you think about Pat Riley's level of senility and what level of talent that he had, they still put a couple of all-stars out there in their starting lineup in Hero and Adebayo. And we know, I don't know whether people always subscribe to it. Heat culture didn't seem to have the significance it's had in the past, especially those last 2 games. But after watching them flatten Miami like that, nobody in their wildest imagination could have anticipated they would fall flat on their face against Indiana. Injuries notwithstanding, but
Miami contributed to that falling flat. With what seemed to be a surprising lack of effort, in addition to a lack of talent, and that's a whole different issue with how they're going to have to get that team out of this 39, 41, 42, 43 win thing that they're stuck in right now. But no, I agree with you, Jeff. I actually did. We talked about putting a little something on there. I did have something on Cleveland to win it all. A bet I made in March. Not very much money, believe me. It's a very small amount. But I thought, they had those 2 long win streaks. I thought they were the best. And I probably underestimated Oklahoma City at the time, or maybe I was just thinking only about Cleveland. But I thought we'd have a Cleveland OKC final. So I'm half right.
Yeah.
But,
you and everybody else, everybody else you can think of thought of that. You're not
it made
alone.
the most sense because, again, I talked about team play with the ability to have the big guy at the end of the game. And both those teams have that. It's just that Cleveland, they just, unfortunately, injuries, we never know. And there's all this talk, Curry gets hurt late in the Golden State in their final series. There's talk came up, and of course it only happened when Curry got hurt because he was the biggest name to get hurt.
Right.
Is the season too long and all this other stuff that comes up? Probably is. Well, it probably is actually, but I don't think anything can be done about it because of the money involved and all.
I know. Wasn't it always, Dave, when we were kids, and the 3 of us are about almost the same age, I mean, wasn't it always 82 games?
Probably 80 and then 82. It sounds about right. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing for hockey hasn't changed. Major League Baseball hasn't changed. Only the NFL has expanded. Because they don't give a crap about their players. But
no, they certainly don't. No.
I would.
We have Dave Lamont, Jeff DeForest joining us here on Main Street. Gary Allen with you, and don't forget you can catch some of my past shows on Main Street along with these gentlemen here on dbtv.tv Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. And things are moving along quite nicely. There, it's on the bottom of the screen. Speaking of the Miami Heat and the wizard, the man who runs everything. What are they going to do? I mean, they can't make any trades. They don't have anybody to trade. I mean, they really don't have anybody to trade. What do they got coming up in the draft? I mean,
not enough to get them to the next phase where they would want to be. I don't know. They're sort of snookered. There are a lot of teams that find themselves in this boat. This is why it's interesting because I'm thinking of the FOI factor that I like to use when judging teams and rating whether or not they're worthy of my interest and emotional investment and monetary, and that is front office ingenuity. I love this. We're seeing this with the Florida Panthers. They change the guy that's calling the shots. They bring in a new coach who he works very well in conjunction with. Talking about Bill Zito and Paul Maurice, general manager coach. The moves that this guy has made as an executive, you always like to see this, and you're seeing this with it's Presti, right? The guy in Oklahoma City. I mean, he made a series of shrewd moves, and they made such a difference in the direction and the effectiveness of the franchise, and they took courage. He trades Paul George. I don't remember what level of discontent Paul George had in Oklahoma City. But whatever it was, it turned out to be fortunate because they trade him and they get SGA, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I believe they also got the draft rights to Jalen Williams in that deal and picked up another player that was significant to him. So that one maneuver churned the whole fortunes of the franchise around. And then when you look at what the Panthers have done the last couple of years, at the trade deadline, they pick up 2 guys that we're seeing more of than maybe any of their stars when they got this Seth Jones, a defenseman, and an injured Brad Marchand, supposedly at the tail end of a brilliant career there with the Bruins. But when you're looking at the results every night and who's really banging people around and making a difference in the games, those 2 guys figure prominently. 2 shrewd moves made. So Yeah, you always like to root for those teams that have the kind of front office that is capable of making moves that turn things around. There's some luck involved, but I think more so with the Panthers than even Oklahoma City. That this has been the residue of design more so than luck.
And you see it in all sports, whether it's baseball, basketball. I mean, the Yankees for years now, the Mets are starting to do. The Dodgers, they seem to have an open purse they can buy, and anybody that they pretty much want. The Celtics did that a few years ago. They had a lot of draft picks that they could select from. But Miami, I don't think they have a lot of draft picks. They don't have anybody to trade. By the way, for the Panthers, this is their third finals in a row, 3 years in a row. So that
that? Dave, you were around when we had those initial press conferences. I think you were still. Were you at that Burton Jacks one when they introduced Bill Torrey and Bobby Clark at Burton?
Not that one, but yeah, all that. It's interesting how they've matured, because they went through a long stretch after the early '90s when they made the finals very early and they got swept by Colorado, and they were charming and they were still playing at Miami Arena. Then they moved out to the burbs in the Fort Lauderdale suburbs. For those who don't know where the arena is, and they were just very average, sometimes just god awful. There would be sometimes more fans of the other team than Panthers fans, depending on who the opponent was. Obviously, that's changed a great deal now, to their eternal credit. They found the right guy. They've done everything right, as you said, Jeff. A little bit of luck is involved in that as far as keep people in one piece, but they also seem to play. Again, I talk about playing very well together. They were so much better in Carolina. It was hysterical. Just watching them at times, with just a couple of exceptions, just dominate that series. This series will be a lot more difficult. It's a rematch, and Edmonton is exceptionally good. But they were able to overcome it last year. There's no reason to think they won't be able to overcome it this year. I think they are a slight underdog, but it's a toss up.
Yeah, Edmonton's minus 120 to win the series. You got to lay 120 to win 100. You get even money. So you're getting a little bit of a break if you're betting the Panthers. They were 2-0 against them in the regular season. Not sure you can attach an overwhelming amount of importance to that. They were both one-goal games. But in a million years, Dave, I mean, going back to those early days, you could have never anticipated 3 straight Stanley Cup appearances by a South Florida hockey team.
Yeah.
On top of that, I mean, no wonder Canada doesn't want to be annexed as the 51st state. It's a disgrace. 6 straight years in the Stanley Cup Finals, a team from Florida has been representing.
And here's something else you guys may be aware of the original NHL teams. Of the original NHL teams, not one of them made the playoffs this year, except for Toronto. I mean, really.
Right. Yeah. And they punked out they had such a great opportunity when they got that 7th game too. And that's the one thing I think that's different here in hockey. I don't consider home ice a huge advantage. So it's not going to be a major shock to me if the Panthers go in and take a split in Edmonton, or even do what they did in Toronto.
Although and home field doesn't seem, and home court doesn't mean much in the NBA anymore either. I mean, so let's get to that real quick before we move on any further. Are we all picking OKC, but by how many?
I guess the interesting proposition would be how many games that series goes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it going to go 6 games? It's going to go 7?
And a lot of people are predicting an OKC sweep. I don't see them as that kind of team. We've seen them, and actually against the spread in the postseason. If you were betting and thinking OKC, they've had any number of blowouts. I think the most 30-point wins of any team in playoff history during the course of the postseason this year. But they're only 7-9 against the spread, so you're losing money if you're betting on them. And
I got them down, I got them for 6 games.
Yeah, and I would think 5. I'm going to say OKC in 5 games.
That's my call too. Yeah, I think so. I think they get one in Indiana. Both teams have great home crowds. Obviously, they're great crowds right now because the teams are winning. But and I think there's enough talent there with Indiana to take a game. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And what do you?
And they do throw in the occasional stinker, OKC, which we've seen. So.
Oh yeah. And by the way, do you think Kevin Durant? I mean, he's a free agent. Would he help the Knicks? Would he help?
He would help anyone.
Would he help Minnesota? Although Minnesota just seems to be there every year. I mean, where does he go? I mean, where does he really go? He's not going to go back to Golden State. He's not going to go play for the Lakers. He's not going to come to Miami because there's nothing around him to give him any kind of even the slightest chance of a championship. Where does he go?
Well, you mentioned Minnesota is a good choice. Obviously, Nick fans will figure out some way to fool to think that they're going to get him there. You have to ask how much more value is there in his career? I mean, let's not forget he has been around a long time.
Yeah.
And so there's gonna reach a point where his effectiveness will be diminished simply because of age. It just makes common sense. So
Yeah.
this isn't the same Kevin Durant when he did go to Golden State and they started really getting hot.
Right.
He's not that guy, but he's still the Slim Reaper. He's still one of the most natural scorers in the history of the game. So he'll give you value, but you're renting. You're definitely not buying right now. You are clearly renting because he's got to be
Yes.
near the end.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like Harden. I'm keep waiting any minute now. What other team are you going to fool that? Oh, I can play. He can shoot,
Well,
and
he
that's
can
about it.
play, but he's got other liabilities. And let's face it, he's still. You go back. It's so funny because every once in a while somebody will throw the picture up of Westbrook, Harden, Durant. Who am I missing? There's another guy in there.
The guy that used to be with Toronto when they won it all.
Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi Leonard.
And you had this core, and they get to the finals and they lose to the Heat, who kind of roughed them up a bit. And then their front office at the time, not the guys who are there now, their front office panicked. Oh, but we got to blow this up. No, you don't. Yeah. You had it. You had it. So it's interesting that anybody who's an OKC fan is finally getting their almost their payback for the panic attack that they had following that finals when everybody all of a sudden none of those guys are around anymore. If they just kept that core together, they probably would have gotten a title.
Right. If the NBA draft turns out to be the way it is, Dallas is going to get back Yuka, or what's his name anyway?
Flag.
Yeah, you're going to get Flag, which that kind of squashes the trade earlier in the season.
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. And by the way, how'd that work out?
Yeah, didn't really work out at all. Maybe they're right about the guy.
No, I don't think it was entirely his fault. I think that team wasn't terribly well constructed anyway. And as much as LeBron has moments of this greatness, the days of daily dominance are done. And I just think the whole thing was weird. And then them winning the lottery, Jeff, it always leads to this good old NBA draft lottery is rigged thing. And you look back at the history of it, Cleveland getting back-to-back number one picks, one of them being LeBron, going to his hometown. The whole Patrick Ewing thing, which people to this day believe was goofy. You have this, which seemed goofy. It seems like sometimes there's a storyline involved in here that is, suspicious. I don't have any evidence. Obviously, nobody's uncovered anything yet, but it does look weird at times.
Well, because we don't see the little ball spinning around that spit out the team or any of that.
They have had members of the media in the back before writing articles about that whole process, about the envelopes and all of this other stuff that's done that way. It makes for some fun TV for sure. But yeah, it's been monitored by members of the basketball media, but I don't know how closely, and it certainly hasn't been done every year.
Okay, we got the NHL. Let's pick. You said, Dave, you think it's going to be close between the Oilers and Panthers.
Sure.
What do you guys got? What do you got going? What do you see?
I'll take a 7-game series with the Panthers winning.
Okay, I'm marking it down. Dave and 7,
which means it's
Jeff?
Probably going to have to be 2 in Edmonton.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous about this one. Edmonton's been playing great. They've been dynamite. They lost the first 2 games to the LA Kings, and since then they've been absolutely on fire. People overlook what we on the East Coast, for whatever reason, don't see a whole lot of Western teams on a consistent basis. They're playing late. If you do have games televised on national TV. So, and how much regular season hockey does the average guy watch anyway?
Right.
Maybe you caught a game with your local team. So we're familiar with the Panthers, not so familiar with Edmonton. Although, I've watched them now through the playoffs. They are on their game. They have the guy Hyman is going to be out, so that's a significant injury for them.
Hyman Roth, yeah,
Hyman Roth. I think he's a Jewish guy in the NHL, Zach Hyman, and but he's a significant player. So he's the only big major injury that you have. Yeah. McDavid is one of those guys that's in that superstar category where I don't know if it's clear cut, but it may be that he is the best player in the NHL right now, and maybe worthy of being in the best ever. And yet, what is he lacking? Dave Lamont, he's lacking that one thing that fans always like to make the ultimate distinction for greatness, and that is does he have a championship? Now, he knocks on the door last year. You would have to figure that definitely that they're on the old mission from God, the old Blues Brothers thing this season. I don't know if that matters because I think the Panthers have the kind of grit and toughness as a team and resolve that they'll be able to handle whatever it is that Edmonton's bringing. I just see a very even series. Goaltending, the starting goalie for the Oilers is back. He's healthy again, so they have him. They have Skinner, who was playing well after being benched earlier in the postseason. And Bobrovsky is a guy that a lot of experts always say, well, he's the best guy left. But he's suspect at times, too. So I'm thinking Edmonton, though, maybe gets a measure of revenge this time. They have the home ice to start things out. What we know,
in 6 or 7 or 5?
I think it's going to take them 7 games to win this thing. And but they'll be back on their home ice this time, a reversal from what we saw last year.
Okay.
And I think maybe in the end that will make the difference.
I tell you this, I got to game 2 last year when it was here. And so the first time I'd seen McDavid live, and he is different. There is a speed there that is noticeable. And I can't even stand in a pair of skates, never mind move on them. But watching him, the way he glides on the ice, there's absolutely a higher level of skill and speed than most guys in this league, if anyone has that. They did a good job of keeping him from scoring a lot of goals in that series last year. That's going to be their number one, pardon the expression, goal this time, is to see if they can have the same kind of success and limiting him from having one of those, hat trick games or 2 goal games where he just goes nuts. But it was interesting, guys, to be there. The crowd reacted differently. This is the home Panthers crowd reacted differently when he had the puck. There was a collective, in that audience when he had it. So he is a difference maker as much as anybody in the league right now.
Perfect.
Jeff DeForest and Dave Lamont joining us here on Main Street. Gary Allen with you. I like the Panthers because of what you said. I like their grit. I just have this funny feeling that they're going to be the one team in all sports that's going to repeat.
Yeah, I was going to say a perfect illustration of what you were talking about. All you have to do is go back and watch the video of what turned out to be the deciding goal in the clinching game against the Dallas Stars. Edmonton goes up, zip, zap, zoop. They're up 3-0 in the first period. Looks like it's going to be a blowout.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking the Stars on their home ice where that they have a great crowd. I haven't been there for a game, but and certainly we're used to and accustomed to seeing live arenas and home teams that have great fans supporting them. But supposedly Dallas is as loud from a decibel level standpoint as any arena in hockey. The crowd is silenced. They're stunned. Dallas comes back, gets a couple of goals. They're back in it. They get to within 3-1 after one period. Now they're 3-2 early in the second. And they are just blistering the Edmonton goal with shots. You can't imagine they're not going to tie this game and then just eventually just surge to a lead and not look back and force another game in a series. And McDavid gets loose on not even a breakaway. I mean, he's being dogged by a guy all the way up the ice, makes an incredible move on the goaltender, one of those flip to the backhand and then scoop it into the net. And that goal was not by anybody that you would consider to be of normal hockey talent. And if you watch that, and it turns out it was the game winner in what turned out to be a 5-3 game. It made it 4-2 at the time. But wow, I mean, when you saw that, it's a great illustration of what you were saying. This guy literally, I know it's cliche to say, is playing at another level, but he is playing at another level. All of his own.
Yeah. Here's the one thing too. I think you both agree. Hockey is better observed and viewed in live and in person than it is on television. It always has been.
I think so. I would agree. I think you get an appreciation for the skill level it takes to do this when you're there. And if you get an exciting game and the crowd is into it, it adds to it. 100%. I would. Yeah, I think so.
When I lived in LA, I used to go to Kings games all the time. When I lived in Chicago, I go see the Blackhawks play all the time. I don't know that much about hockey, but I just love watching the game and enjoying the atmosphere of it. And It's just really unbelievable. All right, we got that out of the way. The Belmont, my dear friend, the floor is yours, Mr. DeForest.
Oh, going to be a very race. From what I could see, it looked like I saw only 6 starters, I think, are going into Belmont. I didn't see anything so far this week, but you do have the major players are all going to go head-to-head here. Everybody was looking forward, possibly in the Preakness, to a rematch of Sovereignty, who skipped the Preakness because of Belmont's stance that the horse probably wasn't ready for the rigors of this, and he'd already won the Derby, so how much more his value was going to increase as a stud when he's owned by Godolphin Stables, who have their own breeding industry. It didn't necessarily have to happen for him to be a Triple Crown winner to be an incredibly valuable stallion. But journalism distinguished himself. I had an interview with Umberto Rispoli before the Preakness, and he was coming out of the Derby where he ended up running second. And the people are debating whether or not this was the best or the worst ride in the history of thoroughbred racing. Because as it happened in a very small field in the Santa Anita Derby, he got journalism in trouble. Decided to stay on the inside. Whatever he was anticipating opening up did not happen. And then on top of that, when he finally did decide to break through with journalism, having, just an absolute fistful of horse, he gets shut off badly, bounced around, and nearly loses the race. But I have not seen a burst of speed like that. 50 yards. We've seen it twice now from journalism. Because he's still so far behind by the time he gets free. Gosger, who was the pace setter in that race and looked like he was going to breeze home to a victory at a big price. That horse is not running into Belmont, so not coming back to be part of the field. But you do have the big 3 and then a 4th edition that wasn't in, got scratched out of the Derby, didn't run in a Preakness. A horse called Rodriguez won the Wood Memorial. And the horse I have my eye on, a phenomenal close. If you watch the tail end of the Kentucky Derby, Baeza, I'm assuming named after the great jockey Braulio Baeza, but Baeza, who fought off journalism till the bitter end in the Santa Anita Derby and almost won that race, is flying. I mean, just absolutely coming from the clouds. Makes a gigantic close in the final 100 yards of the Derby. So those 3 banging heads, plus throw in Rodriguez, we don't know what to expect from him. I think it's going to be a great race. And to tell you who's going to win, I have a rooting interest in journalism just because of our relationship we started with Rispoli, and we hope he has a cleaner trip. But any of those 4 horses would not be a surprise, and I guess you have 2 others in the field who you're going to get some big prices on if they happen to pop up and win.
Are you going to be with our buddy Joe Casale watching the race?
What was that? Tommy was
quick update. The field is 8. Pletcher has 2 more in. One. Crudo at 12-1, and then a bomb shot at 200-1. The number 8 Uncaged, both Pletcher horses.
It's not exactly highly regarded when you're 200-1 in an 8-horse field. Yeah, no. But the old saying, if you leave out Pletcher, you leave on a stretcher. So maybe you need to consider that. I'm not sure, but I think one of those 3. I'm going to go ahead and put a line through Rodriguez. He may win, but he wins without me. I'm thinking maybe Baeza can shake it up and come out on top of the other 2, Sovereignty and Journalism. All really fine and excellent 3-year-old horses.
You're going to watch it with our buddy Joe Casale?
Joe C., is he a big horse racing guy? I didn't know that.
I don't know, but every time I see you on Facebook, you're with him. So, it's like you and Tasso.
Not at the track, though.
No, always musical endeavors. We go out.
Yeah.
And
well, and wherever he goes, he always has his protege with him. So Mr. Tasso. Dave, what do you think about it?
I'll go with Defo on this one. The question I was going to ask about it is: it seems like almost every year, Jeff, the Belmont is such a freaking anticlimax.
Sometimes, yes.
Unless we have a Triple Crown, which obviously doesn't happen every year. How do we get from this ridiculous sight of 20 horses trying to squeeze into one gap in Kentucky, and by the end, there's enough room to literally drive a truck through at the Belmont?
I don't know that that's ever going to change. I don't think you'll see 20 horse fields in the Belmont Stakes because of the arduous nature of the attempt to win the Triple Crown. What I would like to see, and this has been hotly debated for centuries, and I like Larry Colmus, who I had on a show recently, the great race caller, does the Triple Crown races on NBC. He's calling it Del Mar and has been around and you can see them on FanDuel TV. There are a lot of people that are just staunch opponents to change. I don't know if you've been that way in your lifetime, Dave. You don't want to see rule changes. It
depends on the rule.
Expanded playoffs. But all right, it's important to keep the tradition together of the spacing of the Triple Crown. That's what makes it such an incredible achievement if a horse is able to do it. I'm much more in favor now because of the way horses compete. They don't run as often as they used to. You don't see them even sustain their careers nearly as long as they used to. And so I wouldn't mind at all if they just capitulated to the idea of at least spacing the races out so that the Preakness was 3 weeks or more, 3 or 4 weeks after the Derby. And then you could preserve most of the horses that ran in the Derby. If they wanted to run back and take a shot in the Preakness, they'd be more likely to do so than they are right now with the race 2 weeks behind. And look, you even had the Kentucky Derby winner say, "Hey, I'm out." Before they even got out of the winner's circle, they were already announcing they're skipping the Preakness. So that's not good for the game. It's just like golf. I'm a golf fan. I'll watch, the John Deere Classic or whatever, or some tournament in Colorado with the modified Stableford scoring system. But in general, most people are just watching the majors. And with horse racing and the casual fan, they're watching the Triple Crown races. You want the races to be represented by the best in the crop or the 3-year-old season. And it's not happening now. So I don't know that you'll ever see these giant fields because everybody wants to win the Derby. And that's,
that's what I don't like, Jeff. I don't like 20 horse fields.
Yeah.
I don't see. That's the part I don't understand.
Racing, though. So they run like that routinely, which is really weird.
I just don't. I think that diminishes a little bit. I think there should be a cap on that. For me, it's just like some of those horses don't have a shot. I don't know what the criteria is, and then you go, and it seems that also I realize that is the biggest of the 3 races. It's the most traditional. It's the biggest name. It's the
biggest of all races,
right? I think it just. I don't know. The others come up looking weak, and that's unfortunate because of the potential for horse racing history every time. But that got shot down immediately. But I don't know if extending that would be good because the issue here is the Preakness and Belmont tend to get completely overlooked, and again, only if let's say Sovereignty had gone on and won the Preakness. Now we got something going. But how often does that happen?
Not very.
No, not very. That's what I'm concerned about. It's just there's so many other things going on right now that the John Deere Classic has a chance to have more eyeballs on that than it will be on the Belmont.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, people lose interest. The casual fan drops out after the Derby, and the interest level diminishes from there. Unless
it's because the Derby's the number. It's the first one out of the gate. It's also got this celebrity ambiance about it. That with everything going everything going on. And I agree with you. I don't like a large field either. I mean, if they had 10 horses, I think that would be as large as I'd like to see, Dave. I don't think I'd like to see any much more than that.
There's got to be some exclusivity to this. If it's the most important race and it sets your whole thoroughbred calendar up. I realize everything that's happened before it to get some of these horses to win, Arkansas and Florida and things. Okay, I understand that, but 20 of them is excessive, and I also think it increases the risk to both animal and jockey. And I don't quite understand. I mean, I watch it, and the first, once you open the gates and you see this compression as everybody tries to get basically to the same 2 or 3 spots at the same time, it causes concern for me that there's going to be a serious incident. And I think the safest thing to do is let's cap it at 12. Let's take some 12 kick-ass horses and the very best of the best and put some, if necessary, some criteria involved. Hey, in order, you talk about golf majors, you have to qualify for them in some manner.
Well, you do have to qualify for the Derby.
Just
20 horses qualify. Now, not that money is a factor, but let's face it, the reason the pools swell to the levels that they do, which every year they set a new record, is because you have so many entities that you have to consider. And no matter how far-fetched some of these horses may seem, one of the great things about big-time stakes races is you're getting horses of major quality at 20, 30 to 1. So it's like one of the formulas for success for the Breeders' Cup, where you have major stakes winning horses that are going off at double digits and oftentimes very high double digits. But I don't know. I don't have any problem with the tradition of the Derby. The Derby is always going to be the big maca among races. I've never been to the Preakness. My first time I went to a track, a thoroughbred track, it was for the Belmont Stakes. I believe it was 1968 or 69. My buddies and I decided to try this because we had gone to the harness races before and loved that. And there's not quite the same field. You can't equal that field that you have at the Kentucky Derby. You can't replicate it, duplicate it. You can come close. It's still a great day. Been to Belmont Stakes since my early childhood days when I started going to the track, and it's still a great day. I mean, if you're a horse racing fan, you absolutely love it. So,
I performed at the Kentucky Derby, one of the big corporate parties. Mr. Humperdinck and I were there, and I opened for him, and all these women in their little Kentucky hats and the little,
all the women look great. That's one great thing about the Kentucky Derby. I mean, not to denigrate anybody based on looks or look shaming, but there isn't a single woman at the Derby that doesn't look absolutely stunning.
Oh yeah, and I had a great time. The other people there were really, really very nice. They actually brought Muhammad Ali out when he was still able to kind of maneuver around a little bit. And I did get to kind of meet him. I'm not sure that he remembers much of anything at that point, but he was still, somewhat. But it's a beautiful area. I mean, Louisville is a really beautiful area. Dave, you've been out there, I know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Never been to the track, but yeah, it's. I don't know. I just think there's it. Jeff knows way more about this than I do and has way more experience than I do. But to me, the field is diminished by the size.
I agree.
The race is diminished by the size, I should say. And I would just like to make it a little tougher to get into that club and then maybe set us up for a potential Triple Crown. Because otherwise, horse racing just completely disappears from the average calendar. If you know people who aren't, Jeff obviously is an expert at this.
Yes.
And so he's going to pay attention. But how many people like you or me, Gary, are going to be who are more casual fans, who might even be inclined to bet occasionally on something like this? Do I have the Belmont screwed into my brain as something I've got to do this? No, I don't.
No. And by the way, this is a wonderful segue into what I wanted to talk about next. The president of the NCAA would like, and Dave, this is up your alley. He would like to increase the March Madness to a wider field.
Yeah, he can go to hell too. The problem is it's going to happen. And this has been going on for a year or two. I've read the arguments in favor of it, and they can still go to hell. It's disturbing because all you're going to do is screw more 28-5 mid-major teams and bring in more 17 and 16 ACC, Big Ten, SEC mediocre teams that have no chance of winning and bring no value to the tournament at all. And you might say, well, Dave, what would a 28-win Illinois State team do? Provide a little more character and a little more chance at an underdog story and reward you for what is the number one task for a college basketball coach. We're going to skip the whole part about raising young men to become better people and graduating and all of this stuff. We're going to get to the stuff that most people care about. It's winning. Yeah. Where's the reward for winning if you're barely a game over 500 or you have a losing conference record, no matter how good your conference is, as opposed to a team that dominates this conference and wins and does everything it's asked to do and then is going to be left out because somebody thinks it's better to have these other schools pick up that extra check.
Okay, Dave, here's a question I need to ask you. And Jeff, obviously, do we need to decrease the amount of teams that are in the March Madness?
No, there's nothing wrong with it. There's literally nothing wrong with it. In fact, I would shove that first four where the sun doesn't shine, because then you're screwing two teams that won their conferences by putting them in a position where they have to win a game just to go get their ass kicked by a number one seed. Particularly the SWAC and the MEAC seem to get host every year on that deal.
Yeah.
And then you have your 10 seed, okay, fine. You throw in an 18-win UCLA team or something and let them play or whatever because you think it's going to be name value. I think the first four is insulting. And it's it's just another betting opportunity is the way I look at it on a Wednesday night, and gives people in Dayton, Ohio something to do.
So do you think that this is actually going to happen?
Do I think?
Dave?
Yeah. Once they start these yapping, yapping, the conference presidents, look, what's everything in college sports about anymore? There's
Right.
almost it's not an integrity issue. It's just that everybody now sees the only thing that counts anymore is money. And
Jeff, that's where it comes in with you. The more games, the more betting, the more money, the more whatever. And that's all, as Dave would say, and like my grandfather used to say, and so many others, if you want to know what's going on in business or otherwise, just follow the money. So that's probably the direction it'll go in because of the money, right?
No doubt. I mean, if you're going to see this change come about, that'll be the motivating factor. I'm with Dave, though. I'm fine. The tournament is great every year. I don't know that they need to mess with it anymore. If you wanted to eliminate that first four thing, then that's kind of, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But I don't mind having it as long as it's there now. So you have 68 teams coming in. There was always this argument about the national championship expansion with football. Well, geez, would you rather make a mistake at number 8 versus 9? Or 2 versus 3 to decide the national championship. I mean, you're not making a lot of mistakes at 69 versus 68. Those teams probably have little chance of going on and winning the title. So do you need more teams in the field? Does it help distinguish the idea that you're in the NCAA tournament? No. Yeah. So I would leave it alone. I think it's fine the way it is. They've tinkered with it enough through expansion over the years where I don't really know that it needs any change. I'm not sure anybody had a convincing argument that they got hosed not getting to the tournament this year.
And the other thing is, how do you had the perfect schedule. So again, you talk about casual fans. Casual fans do watch this, particularly if you can get a surprise team to make a little bit of a run, although generally surprise team. Although a couple of years ago, we had FAU and San Diego State talk about surprise teams have a legitimate opportunity to win the national championship. So that's the charm of the event. Those kinds of schools, unless they win the conference, can get left out. So you have this debate every year. The number 2 team in, say, the Mountain West, or the number 3 team in the Mountain West that might have 26 wins, or do you take the number 11 team from the SEC? Ooh, it's the SEC. We're God.
I'm sick of that.
Well,
I'm really sick of it.
Wait, football's coming, so just wait. So
I know.
The schedule is perfect. You play your Wednesday, then you go night, day, night, and then you have a few days off, and you repeat it until you get down to that Final Four, and everybody knows what's coming. Here, how are they going to break it down? How are they going to get it to where it's going to be to that nice round 64 again that we like? And so you adding a week, or is this thing now going to end a week later? It's just, I don't get it.
I know. It's most aggravating. And I've got 2 more stories I want to cover before we get out of here. Terry Bradshaw kind of dipped his toes in the deep end, as Terry can only do, about the Pittsburgh Steelers waiting for Aaron Rodgers. He had some very interesting statements to make about Aaron Rodgers. Why are we waiting for a 1-year deal? A guy who's basically washed up. What's wrong with this organization? They're not the Pittsburgh Steelers that I recognize. What's going on here? To which I have yet to hear anybody from the Pittsburgh Steelers make any statement to the event. Well, Terry doesn't know what he's talking about, blah, blah, blah. Look, I don't like Terry Bradshaw very much anyway for personal reasons, but he's got a point. What has happened, whether you're waiting for Aaron Rodgers, who is probably in a cave somewhere praying to somebody to be in the darkness, let him go. I think he's washed up myself. I don't think he has much in the tank left at all. I think it's all been left on the field. And I think that injury in New York, Jeff, kind of finished him off.
I don't know. He wasn't terrible last year. If you looked at the way he performed, the Jets were bad. Aaron Rodgers, from a statistical standpoint, didn't have a bad season, and at times looked like he was more capable than a lot. I mean, think about how few really good quarterbacks there are in the NFL that start. So would Rodgers be in the bottom half of 32 quarterbacks? I don't know. I think he falls somewhere in that middle tier of 10 through 20 if he was a starting quarterback in the league right now. So who can afford to bypass that if you have the opportunity and you're in desperate need of a quarterback? I don't know why you resent Terry Bradshaw. I think he makes a lot of good points. I used to love it when who was the guy? Ed something was covering the Dallas Cowboys all the time now, but used to be on ESPN, and he was assigned to watch. Ed Werder and Rachel Nichols. Literally, I mean, Brett Favre would be changing the oil in his truck, and they'd be getting oil splashed in their faces because they were laying under the truck, waiting for anything that Favre would do to decide whether or not he was going to retire. Yeah. And we've sort of had this story the last several years with the travails of Aaron Rodgers trying to figure out what this guy's going to do and where he's going to end up. I wouldn't say he was a shot fighter completely. He did actually bounce back from his Achilles injury fairly well, certainly a lot better than our man Dan Marino did and maybe others. But how many more years does he have left? You're looking at most likely one. So if you're a team that desperately needs a quarterback right now, or you think that that's going to be the difference, certainly worth taking a look at.
I will say this, Rob. I just while you guys were talking, I looked up his numbers from last year. He was on the good end. He threw for almost 3,900 yards. It was 8th in the NFL. He had 28 TD passes, which was 7th, tied for 7th. He only had 11 interceptions. That's an okay ratio. His quarterback rating was crap. It was 25th among quarterbacks. So it's a little bit of everything. Pittsburgh has to make a decision. Obviously, Mason Rudolph is not their guy, and they drafted Will Howard. So you're going to ask a team that is not a rebuilding type franchise, right? We don't look at the Steelers as a team that's ever going to just tear it up and tell Mike Tomlin, hey, buddy, sorry, you're going to stink the next couple of years, but it's going to be okay. That's not how they play. So they're thinking 1 year at a time. Whether that's a wise decision or not, we're going to remain. So
that's Aaron Rodgers on the phone to Jeff right now.
It was the wife. She wanted me to walk down to where she is because she didn't want to drive home from this bar she was at. But she says she's okay. So
the thing that ticks me off about Aaron Rodgers, it's like the Brett Favre story that we just talked about, Jeff. I mean, it's like, what's he going to do? Is he in a cave somewhere? I mean, what's he up to?
Is he driving that, or are we driving that?
I think his absence and not speaking is also driving it to the point the media starts driving it.
Well, then, okay, is Rodgers obligated to tell us everything he wants to do?
No, of course not. Of course not.
Gary, I've got to be honest, that ends it right there.
Okay.
What you're falling victim to is what I fall victim to sometimes too, and he is part of all of this. Is what is it? Nature abhors a vacuum, right? Is that the old saying?
Yeah.
So here we are in the media, not necessarily the three of us, but other people like, well, it's frickin' June 2nd. The draft is long over. We have all nothing but gym right now. It's just basically people playing catch in shorts and T-shirts and working up a sweat every once in a while. We got nothing to talk about. So what's out there? Oh, there's one of them. Here's a prominent, national franchise. I consider the Steelers a national team based on their fan base in all 50 states. You could probably find a Steelers bar in Hawaii and Alaska if you look it up. So, and you have a guy who's a celebrity quarterback who became not just a Hall of Fame player, which we tend to forget about, but a celebrity. And we know what he's doing. Well, let's try to figure it out. Let's fill airtime. We got 24 hours.
How long do they wait for this guy? How much longer do they wait for him to make up his mind?
Training camp. Does he need to be working out now? He might be working out for all we know. And does he really need to be anywhere until training camp starts? No, he doesn't. And at his age especially, this isn't some 24-year-old who can't pick up a playbook and read it.
No. Most people in the NFL, a friend of mine who's an agent, always says this: nothing happens in the NFL until it absolutely has to. Yeah. So that's why you're saying. I mean, Rodgers could do whatever he wants, and he seems to have at least some leverage in trying to figure out where he wants to go. I give him all the credit in the world because I would have to label him as fearless as anybody that's ever played the game. Not because he stands in the pocket and takes the hits and all of that, but simply because he was willing to drive around town with Danica Patrick at the wheel. Think about that for a second. Patrick never made it out of the first lap of any NASCAR race she was ever in. I don't know if she had the same experience. It seems like she crashed every car that she ever sat behind the wheel of. And here's Rodgers willing to let her drive him to practice. That's good. Anyway, that's
on a lighter note that we can end this program. If you're ever wondering what Travis Kelce's going to do when he eventually retires, his girlfriend got her full catalog. She paid $300 million or something for it. But Travis and his brother had bought an Arena Football League team.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah.
I didn't even know Arena Football was still around.
The St. Joseph's Goats. Oh no, it's still around. It's still around. The St. Joseph Goats, which is being purchased actually by their bottling company, their brewery, and of course they're heading it up. But yeah, that's pretty much what they're going to do. And then on a final note, if I can just do this, guys, this past week I lost a friend, and she had been on my program, my late night show that I used to do called The Express, many, many, many times. And I'm talking about Loretta Swit. When I was living in LA, she was very kind to me. She was very nice to me. I didn't see her a whole lot over the last 15, 20 years, but she would do my show. And I'm saddened by her passing. I hope that that her flight of angels take her to her rest. And I hope, Major Houlihan, you have earned your wings, and God bless you. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you did for me, and all the good stuff you did for me on my program. She was always a joy, guys, to have on the program. She always had a good laugh. When I used to refer to Harry Morgan as Henry Morgan, she used to correct me immediately and say, it's not Harry, it's Henry. So she would always correct me, and she was always a delight, and she always had funny stories. So I just wanted to just say, Loretta, I miss you already. I was on the phone with some people today that knew her well, like that know her a heck of a lot better than I did. And she's going to be sadly missed in the world. She was a bright light, and it's now out. So I just wanted to basically say that. And I just want to thank Dave and Jeff. They'll be back in July joining us for another exciting time. And by then, Major League Baseball will be something to talk about. The NBA will be over with.
And Aaron Rodgers will be in Pittsburgh.
well, we hope somewhere anyway. And maybe the Colts will find a quarterback, because that guy stinks. Richardson just plain stinks. Anyway, Dave, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us. Tommy, I don't know if you can hear me, but we're going to send the show right up to a DBTV today. If you can do that for me, please. And on behalf of everybody, all of us, please be safe, be happy. And until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Good day.